Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sambuddhassa. Dhamma of Peace series, number 34. The fools and the wise. We will discuss a verse in the Mangala Sutta. It discourses on blessing of prosperity, happiness, and peace, which are the benefits of Buddha Dhamma. Men and Devas argue for 12 years about what blessing is. Once Buddha was dwelling at a monastery in Jeddah Grove, near the south side of Savatthi, which Anathapindika donated. One day, in the late hours after midnight, a deity approached Buddha and asked what blessing was for the benefit of men and devas. Buddha delivered 38 blessings in verses. It's a Pali poem. In Pali, it's called Gatha. The two blessings of the three, which consist in the first verse, run like this: not to associate with fools, associate with the wise is the highest blessings. So, what is fools? Fools are people who thrive on evil actions, whether it is physical, verbal, or mental. They are all evil. They thrive on it. Wise people are intelligent and clever and can analyze good and evil through cause and effect and follow. Here I would like to give an account of what occurred in Buddha's time to illustrate the consequences of associating with fools. In this way, we have a better understanding, and at the same time, we a bit more about the Buddha's dynasty. Venerable Mahakassapa was humble, content, and compassionate arahant. He dwelled in a quiet, secluded forest shelter, consumed only one meal daily, and never wore a donated robe. He stitched robes out of small patches of cloth picked up from cemeteries. He followed the Vinaya rules and discipline set out by the Buddha without fail. Right to a T. Even the Buddha's most honored disciple, Venerable Sariputta and Moggallana, respected Venerable Mahakassapa. Two junior monks attended him in that forest. One was considerate, polite, and respectful, and the other was lazy but clever and liked to take credits for events that he did not do. The considerate monk did not want the other end in the four woeful states. Because if one is doing a trickery and lying to an arahant, it could be reborn in a four woeful state. As the person was an arahant, you could say he would even end up in hell. So most likely, if he keep on doing it, he will end up in hell. So the good disciple set up a situation to change his friend's bad behavior. He spoiled a large pot of water for the teacher's bath. As that region is in the foothills of the Himalayas with a cold climate, and it was winter. So that's what the attendants do out of their own desire or heart, not because the teacher asked them. When the water boiled, the other monk saw it, and he often went to the teacher and reported that the hot water was ready for the bath, as if he was arranging everything. That's how he take credit, but the other one is the one who's doing it. And reported the teacher, the hot water was ready for the bath. Once, when the teacher came, they found an empty pot, no water, just empty. The teacher said nothing and went back to his shelter. The teacher knew the tricky student's character, but never confronted him out of compassion. Before the teacher and his friend came to the pots where the boiling water pot is, the diligent student took it to the bathhouse and mixed it with cold water to an appropriate temperature. That's why the pot was empty. But the other student thought the boiling water is ready in the pot. After he mixed the water to an appropriate temperature, he went to his teacher and reported that the bath was ready. The tricky student was furious and embarrassed that he got caught red-handed. That's what it at that time. The next day, the Venerable Mahakassapa and the two monks went for alms round. They have to go every day. But they went to the separate places. However, the tricky monk pretended to go for an alms round, but returned to the monastery with anger. He set the monastery on fire and left the place and his teacher and the other. So that was the story. The story gives a vivid account. Even an arahant allowed and associated a fool ended up in disastrous situations. Of course, the problem did not inflict an arahant's mind. Still, the other student was devastated and upset. So, avoid fools as associates or friends if you do not want danger and suffering. That's a lesson from it. Avoid fools if you don't want to face suffering. That's one incident regarding to fools. So let's discuss the wise. I will discuss a story in the scriptures. Once, two merchants were camping in a resting place with abundant water, shades, and a large animal pastures. In those olden days, those merchants were the huge followers and many carts and horses and cows. They carry goods and travel and sell them from town to town, place to place, city to city. That was the tradition of the trade. So whenever they travel, there's always a spot, as I just said. There's a lot of water and a lot of shades, that mean trees, and a great pastures for the animals to eat. In those places they rest for some time because they travel long and far and wide. Both were heading to a city a fair distance away from where they are resting to sell the goods. One merchant decided to set out to the town ahead of the other. If he did so, his animals, which is cattle, horses and goats, would have plenty of green grass and leaves along the way. Nobody has touched it yet. And also water will be plenty. So he said, I'll go ahead to make sure that I get them all ahead. Also, by arriving first in the town, he would have the first sale there and ask for any price he desired, as there was no competition. That is how he thought, how he planned. His plan came out of excessive greed. His employees were miserable because they had little rest. They were just camping and then, let's go. They have to pack and go again. So they have to walk twice as hard. But when they got there, the goods were not as widely sold as he had thought, because he is the first one, so everybody will grab from his hand because he put a very high price on the goods. So all the employees, the followers, they follow a fool who is greedy, who thinks only for himself, not for his followers and employees. And that kind of suffering comes to those people as a consequence of associating with a fool. Now, the second merchant, both merchants were camping at the same camping ground. The second merchant stayed about a month behind at the campground so his employees could rest from their long journey. They travel a long journey, and this is a good spot to rest. So my men will get a good rest, give them a good time to recover their energy. So with that in mind, he decided to stay a month behind the first one left. He reasoned that the first merchant's livestock would eat rough grass and leaf because they are growing wild throughout the winter and now the spring. They would eat up all those rough grass and leaves. And after they ate them, a new growth will come because the grass, we mow the lawn, it grows back again, just like that. A new growth would be ready in those pastures when he arrived later. A month later, there will be new. His livestock could eat nutritious, fresh grass and leaves in the pasture. Also in areas where water is not easily accessible, these merchants, they have to dig wells to get water. So in those areas, the first merchant group, they have to dig wells where there is no water. Because of that, the second merchant arrived in those parts. They save a lot of energy. His men save a lot of energy and time to dig wells. The water is ready for them. So he was thinking all these things ahead. And even though he arrived in the city late, if his products price are reasonable, because he's not greedy, just a fair number to pay his employees and to have his own son left. If the price are reasonable, many people would buy large amount to eat now and also store for the winter. Because of that, all his goods were all sold out. And he makes a reasonable profit. And his followers had an easier, happier, and more beneficial life. Why? Because they associated with the wise. The leader, the second merchant, was a wise man who can look through sequences, step by step, cause and effect, to benefit not only him but for everybody. So these two accounts give what is said in the Mangala Sutta of what the fools, not to associate with fools, associate with the wise. That is highest blessing. So may all of you be able to take lessons from these stories from the scripture and always make sure to avoid fools and associate with a wise person throughout your life so that you may be able to seek the Dhamma as soon as possible. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much.